Jack here, owner of Hockey Alley, bringing you back hockey history. Today I got NHL defenseman Rich Pilon. He was a hard-hitting defenseman in the NHL, and I'm going to be asking him some questions about the past when he played. Let's see how it goes. How you doing, Rich? How are you?
Good, Jack. How you doing? Thanks for having me on your podcast here.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on and talking to me on my channel. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Good time to be doing it anyway indoors here. I'm out in Saskatoon here, Saskatchewan, and we came out of a polar vortex. It was like with minus, basically with the wind chill, it was upwards from minus 48 to minus 51 for a week straight.
Wow, that's cold.
Little chilly.
Yeah.
It's cold. We're minus, well, actually today we're minus, I think, 24 with the wind chill. We're at minus 35.
Wow. Did they
It's like t-shirt and a fleece to
Yeah. Did they shut everything down? Are they still playing the games, or are the kids, or they shut all that down?
No, they still go.
Really? Those are some tough
They
kids.
still go. People, yeah, they go on the road, and some of these rinks in the smaller communities too. It's colder inside than it is out.
Wow.
So I know we had my grandson actually he had to go play a game out of town, and yeah, it's crazy. I was telling my wife about it. I was like, Jesus, I'm like, what's wrong with them? Like, they should have canceled. She goes, you didn't cancel when you were coaching Garrett. But yeah, you're right. I didn't.
That's awesome.
Anyway, So.
I wanted to ask you, so how many years did you play pro hockey in the NHL?
Well, I was 15 years under contract.
Uh-huh.
And my last 2 years, like I should have been, I think I'm around 650 games, 650 or one, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I probably should have been at that 1,000 mark, but I had a lot of injuries, like just some major injuries coming up just from my style of play.
Yeah.
And then my last 2 years really in St. Louis is when I really kind of fell off the rails and just, the game, I wasn't if I would have been a little bit harder on myself personally on what I was doing away from the game, I probably would have played another 3 to 5 years probably. But I was just kind of like at a point where, I went through addiction. I've got 19 years of sobriety now, and I went through addictions right at the end of that latter part of my career with basically my last 2 years in St. Louis. And things just kind of fell right off the rails. And basically got my life straightened out. But I got back here to Saskatoon. I still had another year and a half of just floundering and out of control. And then really finally had to really look in the mirror and was either going to leave my family and everybody or have get my life back on track and get it straightened out. And kind of that's what happened. So,
yeah. You've done great. You've done great. Get back. That's awesome. It's good for other people to hear, if there's someone out there that's battling something and then they hear your story, if there's positives.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah,
like you go through all these different things, and like now that I do a lot of stuff with young people, and I tell my story because I did end up trying taking my life, right, and I was unsuccessful. So the thing when you get to that point in your life where you and that's where addictions, you're not the same person. You're just not.
No.
And you your addictions will do what it needs to do, what it's trying to feed, and it convinced me at the time that I was better off not being here, right? That everybody was going to be happier without me, and that's completely wrong because more like the people that you love are going to miss you.
Yes, absolutely.
Period. So so I went through a little bit. I went through that, and then basically it was a huge. Just got my life back on track, and now life is still life. Every day, I think you've got to cherish every day you get up, and you're to be walking around and grateful just to get out of bed. So I'm unfortunate for that. So I appreciate. So that's one of those things that I am grateful. But that my higher power actually wasn't ready to take me.
Yeah, absolutely. You're here.
Yeah.
Glad to have you. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the style of play you played, and I've seen you play, and you were a tough defenseman to play against, and wanted to know how did you get that? Growing up, was that how you played when you were a kid, or did that come on later on? that style?
You know what? You know what? That's one of those things where if you get beat up enough times, you eventually get better at not getting beating up. So I think as a young kid, I was kind of bullied a lot. And when I finally grew, because I was small till I was 15, I was like 5'5", whatever I was. And then I grew from the time I was 15 to a 16-year-old is when I started to grow. But I was one of those guys that if I wouldn't have grown, I'd have been like a Kenny Lensman or a Keith Acton or even a Marshawn. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I was a pesty, like whether I played soccer or hockey, I was always like on things hard. I went hard at things, right?
Yeah.
And it really didn't. I sacrificed my body a lot of time because I was willing to pay a price. And that started at a very young age. Just I just had a big drive and a really high work ethic. And my style of play because I got bigger, as I grew, that never changed. One of my things was always about once I got on the ice, didn't matter who you were on the other team, friends or ex-teammates, I didn't care. It wasn't personal, right?
Part of the game.
I was there to do my job, and my job, going into and when I got to the NHL was I would probably credit a lot of it to Al Arbor, who kind of groomed me, who did groom me. Because when I made the Islanders in 87, 88, when I made 88, 89, when I made the Islanders, I had a really good start to the year. Mm-hmm. I think I had 12 points in my first, or whatever I had, 9 points in 12 games or something.
Wow.
So I ended up the year with 14. In that tenure, though, there was myself and the Islanders first round pick, Dean Chanel. He was the first rounder. I came out of nowhere to earn an opportunity, right?
Yes.
And Terry Simpson got fired, who was who basically was giving me the opportunity, and Al Arbor came in and came back to coach. Mm-hmm. Then I lost all my ice time, and I was kind of wondering I'm going to get sent down to the minors, right? I was still 20 years old, right?
Yes.
And Al just kind of, Rick Wilson was the assistant coach, and Wilson was my ex-junior coach who knew me, so they knew of me. That was kind of a throwback, what they called me, a throwback from, a bit of an outlier, back to the old, I was still in that, played very physical and played really hard defensively, but had some offensive ability, right?
Yes.
And Al just took all my ice time away, and I thought I was getting sent down. I was he would yell at me in practice, and I'm like, geez, this guy doesn't like me, and it became about me. And then I talked to Rick Wilson. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was going to ask you, was your style of play not what Al was looking for? Al Arbor?
No, No, it wasn't that. Here's what it is. So he was, when Terry Simpson was there, he had thrown all the veteran guys that had Stanley Cups to the back of the bus, basically. Right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter that you won Stanley Cups, you're going to earn everything with me. Well, that's not how those older players wanted it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what cost Terry his job, really, because the older guys quit on him, right? Because they were and then Al, when he came in, went back and gave the ice time to the veterans like Tommy Johnson and all these guys, right?
Yes.
And I went to the back of the bus and was basically barely playing now and kind of struggling for a couple of weeks and thought I was going to get set down. And then I talked to Rick Wilson about just what am I doing wrong? Just tell me what I got to do right, and I'm going to do it. But I just feel like he doesn't like me. And anyway, Al came and talked to me, and he said, Rich, he goes, and it wasn't mattering. He was just trying to make me, this is how they coached back then, right? He goes, this game is, he goes, you are too worried about pleasing me, is how he explained it to me in a very roundabout way. And this game is about your teammate. It's about you showing up and being there for them, not making me happy, but making sure you have the respect of each player in that room, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, if you want to play in this league for a long time, he goes, to me, Rick, he goes, you're not going to, the way you play, your physical side, you've got an edge that a lot of guys don't have. But he goes, if you want to learn the game and be a defensive defenseman and be a shutdown guy, he goes, I will teach you, and you'll play this game for a long time because nobody wants to play that style that you play.
Yeah, not too many.
And that was
That's
it.
what I was saying is I haven't seen too many over the years. I mean, like a Scott Stevens, just very few
Yeah,
that will put their body on the
very
line
few.
to do what you do.
Yeah, and and he just said, he goes, your job is to make the most important pass in it. And I remember this. He goes, the most important pass in the game is the first one out of your G zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and I said, Al, I'll do whatever you tell me. You just tell me what you want me to do. He goes, okay. He goes, I want you on the ice 20 minutes before everybody else every day when we have practice days, and you and Darcy Regier are going to go on the ice, and all you're going to do is work on making the first pass.
Wow.
And then he goes, when it comes to the games, he goes, I want you playing your same style, but I don't want any. I don't want you thinking offense. I want you thinking defense all the time, and you're going to support an offensive guy. And that was really what happened. He molded me to that. Blocking shots, and I would go out every day and shoot. I would do, Darcy would dump pucks in, and I would just I'd start backwards, shoulder check, pick up the puck, and make a good first pass. And sometimes he was stationed, sometimes he was moving.
Wow.
And I did that for my whole first year.
I mean, at least he
And
came
then-
out and told you what you needed to do. That's a lot of coaches
Yeah.
don't tell their players anything. Communication
No,
was
they
good
don't.
there.
Yeah. And he was like, Al was mean. Like, he was not, he was like, he cared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things with him is that it wasn't about him. He didn't really care about his record or anything. He knew how to get to press individuals to make sure they were to get the best version of them.
Yeah.
And he taught me to be a leader. Like, there's so many things he taught me, like, and a lot of people, I don't know if anybody ever talked to him about Al, but things like when we were losing, he was Mr. Positive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When we were winning, he was the grumpiest guy around.
Really? Huh.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is what he told me. When I remember sitting with him one day when he was like, we were just like, he had been retired, like he was not coaching anymore, and I remember talking to him because I told him he taught me a lot. I was telling, kind of had a conversation, how many things that I took with me from him, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, so if we were winning and guys, and you think, just if you really think about this, when guys are winning and feeling good about themselves, they have a lot of confidence. That's when you can press.
Yeah.
Because they've got a little swagger, right?
Yeah.
So when we come to practice, and I remember certain guys would be like a little bit kind of loosey-goosey, whatever you want to, a little bit like we're on a couple-game winning streak, and Al would come by me, whisper to me, he'd be like, Chief, or Peeler, he called me Chief or Peeler, he'd be like, Peels. He goes, Ray Ferraro there? He goes, he's not competing hard enough. Get him going.
Wow.
Okay? So then we would do a one-on-one drill in corners, and I would just abuse Ray. Well, then I had him competing.
That's how you do it. So he depended on you quite a bit to, pick up the team.
So then I learned, and then I eventually learned to do it my own. Like, I would watch certain guys, and they were getting a little cocky on the ice. Well, it wasn't personal. I would slew foot him or something, or cross-check him. Well, then your best competition has to be your own teammate. And that's one thing Al always talked about. He goes, why would you lay off on your teammate in practice and not keep him sharp? Because when you come to the real game, especially in our era, nobody's laying off.
Oh, no.
So create the right habit. Create the habit of being on your toes when you're on the ice. And it's true, right?
Yeah.
And it's different now because guys don't finish their check as much as back in our day.
No.
But, back then, you had to learn to take a check. Now you just turn your back and it's a boarding call for the other guy.
I was going to get into that for you. I was going to ask you that later.
Yeah, so it's like so in today's game, it's like, I remember Mark, message talking about this the other day on one of the sports one of the games that he's doing, and I'm like going, he's right. At what point is there not accountability for these players to actually take a hit? Like, come on. So if you see a guy coming, you turn your back and you just loosen up, you get hit, and then they get a penalty.
Yeah, today you'd be suspended in practice, Rich.
Oh, honestly, they would, guys, like, if you ask anybody about me, guys would be like, he's an asshole on practice. I am. Because when I got on the ice, I had fun, but when it came to one-on-one and drill, I played like it was a game. And that was because of Al.
Wow.
Like, he just basically said, Rich, don't lay off. You keep these guys sharp. I used to hit guys open ice in the middle of the ice. They wouldn't even go through the middle in practice.
Oh.
Me and Darius. Like, we had fights. I fought, I don't know how many guys I fought in practice. I fought Dave Chazowski, who was my roommate. Yeah, I fought Chinder. I bet you I had at least a dozen fights in practice.
Wow.
Yeah, through the years, just because I would just punish guys and be like, and they'd want to drop me because I was like, and obviously you're not trying to hurt them, but it was a fight. But then what happened? You had to compete.
Yeah. What if you went after like a superstar? Like, I know Mike Bossy was in the league at the time when you were playing, right? He was still there?
No, he just retired that year.
He just retired, okay.
Yeah, he retired that year that I was that I made the team.
Oh, okay. And then you had Brian Trottier, who was a phenomenal player.
There's certain guys. Those guys, like, honestly, the Brian Trottiers of the world, Brian was like me. He competed hard in practice.
Oh, he did. So he was.
Billy Smith was the same way.
Oh yeah, Billy Smith was rough out there. He was a tough goalie.
He was tough. Like, he kept you on your toes because if you came down the wall with your head down, he'd charge you and stack the pads.
Wow, very different.
Yeah, it was kind of just a very different. Now you got guys that you don't want to touch anybody. Well, and plus now too, there's so many games, right? Like, there's a lot more games, so because of that, there's less practice. A lot of times as you're getting older in this game now, it's more maintenance than anything, right? Keeping guys sharp. Yeah. Your younger guys that I don't know what they do now, but I'm sure they got to do a lot more extra to stay sharp because there's less practice time.
Yeah. I have a highlight here that's on with when you hip check Lindros. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
You came off the bench.
Yeah, that would be a penalty today.
Yeah. And that wasn't even a penalty back then. The people that don't know hockey, like the new people coming into the game to learn, that was a typical game, right? That was a typical play.
Yeah. There was a lot more game within the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what I mean by that is that, the accountability, like, we policed ourselves to some degree, right? Because back then, like, you think about the linesmen even, they didn't really even stop fights.
No.
Right now, they don't even want you to fight. But, like, that back then, even with that hit with Lindros, I was just coming off the bench, and he was like, it wasn't like, it was a 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephants, finish your check. Nowadays, it's a 1 elephant. If you go anything out of your way, that's a penalty.
Yeah.
Right?
They charging or whatever they'll call it, interference.
Yeah, and that's kind of, within, like, for, I remember, like, me and Eric had, like, we battled. We were both, I was a dirty player. There's no question I was dirty. I played the game on edge. I was chippy, and I never talked, but I had all my different things that I would do to like, and back then there was only one ref.
Yeah.
But you got the flash guys behind the legs. You got the, slash them on top of their skate laces, off draws, right? Those are things. The things were taught to me by some of my coaches.
Yeah, they used to teach us that stuff. Put the stick in the gut and pull, like, to hook them. I mean, that was all legal. That was all legal.
Yeah, guys go shoot the puck. You can handcuff them by trying to push into their hands, right?
Yeah. I mean, we all use those.
That's a flash, but they want more scoring. And, like, here's how I explain to somebody. Like, somebody asked me, just funny we're talking, but they're like, "Oh, the game's way faster today." I said, "I disagree with you to some degree." I said, "You don't think Pavel Bure was fast? Alexander McGinley, Pat LaFontaine?
They were fast.
These guys were," I said, "they were super fast in our era." And I said, they didn't have the equipment that these guys have today.
No heavy skates.
We had heavier skates. I said, just think about this. I said, heavier skates. Everything was heavier. The sticks were heavier. Everything was heavier. I said, so when people try and say, well, who's a better hockey player? Would it have been like a Maurice Richard or a, Bobby Orr to whoever you want to compare it to? Well, the goalies, I said, here's what it is. The goalies, the guys that scored 70 goals, the Hulls, the Gretzky, the Meyer, the Lemieux, they scored goals with us hanging on them.
Yeah.
Yes, the pads were smaller, so there was more net. But the sticks weren't as good, right?
Yeah.
Now you got nobody scoring goals hanging on. It's all like, you rarely see that, right?
Yeah.
Like a greasy goal. Yes, the goalie pads are way bigger and the goalies are freaking monsters. Yes, there's less net. So how do you compare it?
There was also no two-line pass. We had a two-line pass. Yeah, that was the biggest factor.
Yeah, like the two line, now there's no red line.
Yeah, the no red line that opens things up.
I said, off draws, we used to run pick plays. Now you can't pick.
No.
Right? In your own end, you'd be like, I remember my son Garrett, I don't know, my son Garrett played for the Belleville Senators. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Capitals. He's 25 years old. He's turning 20. Yeah, and he just never got an opportunity with Washington. Now that he won the Calder Cup with Hershey last year and was a big part of it.
Oh, wow.
And he signed with Ottawa this year. The 1 year, took a little bit less money, but was hoping for the opportunity. Then he was having a good year, and he just kind of got hurt. He hurt tweaked his knee here a bit.
Oh.
But anyways, where are they going with this anyway?
Just that, the red. I think that there's not too many stretch passes. There's more stretch passes.
There's no stretch pass. But he was watching a video of me actually against Mario Lemieux, on one of my. This was 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was on VHS. And Garrett's looking at me and he goes, "That's a penalty. Oh, there's another penalty, Dad." Because I was pinning Mario, and I was I had my arms wrapped all the way around him, and I had him pinned. It was for 15 seconds he couldn't move. And that wasn't a penalty. So Garrett was Dad. He was watching my one shift. I had 4 penalties.
Wow.
And not one was called.
There was, yeah. I was going to tell you. I saw one video on YouTube where you were going after Lemieux, and it looked like you were pretty ticked off. What happened? Do you remember that incident?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what happened. We were playing. Me and Darius were playing against Mario, Ronnie Francis, and Jaromir Jagr. Wow. And we're 12 minutes into the first period. It was 8 minutes left in the period. We were down 4-0, and Darius and I were -4. And 2 of the goals were my fault, my guy. So I was in a very owly mood because I was I got to get out of this. In my head, I was just frustrated, right? And as I was doing a line change. Mario was going by our bench. I turned to toe my stick over, and I slashed him tried to get him between the elbows, right, in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And he turned around and started cross-checking me. That's not on video, though. And then what happened was I was in my head. I must have been I blacked. I saw black, really, where I was I'm done with this game anyway, probably, was what I was thinking. So I started, because he was cross-checking me so many times, I turned around and I started using my stick like a tomahawk.
And that's...
and I was, Guess how many games I got?
How many?
2.
Nowadays, it'd be probably 20.
20 at least.
Yeah. It's just a different era, different thinking.
Yeah.
I mean...
I got 2 games. And then I remember Mario came after I came back, whatever, or I played Mario again. I felt so bad, right?
Yeah.
So I was on the draw, and I apologized to him. I said, "Mario, I'm really sorry about that. I was that guy just crossed the line. That was not called for. And he just apologized. He goes, Rich, I shouldn't have did what I did. He goes, I just found out he had just found out he had cancer.
Oh, that was at that time.
But with that time, yeah. So he had found out that week that he had cancer.
Oh.
So he was in a bad mood too. So that's why he had frustration, right? It was like,
Yeah.
but I took it to another level. So, but yeah, I did apologize to him. So.
Yeah, but that was a hell of a line right there. Ron Francis, Jaromir Jagr, Mario Lemieux, like top 10 in scoring in the history of the game, and you guys are going against them. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah, and we were like, and
that.
that's who we played against all the time. That's who we played against all the time, right?
Yeah, the rivalries.
We were, and that's what Al, like I always played against the top two lines my whole career.
Wow.
Yeah, I was never a third pairing that I can remember. I'd always start sometimes later, sometimes a third pairing because I know Milbury, when Milbury was there, he was like, I just complimented the top guys so well. Like, so even with the Islanders, I was with Kenny Janssen all the time, right?
Yeah, remember him.
And then even when I went to the Rangers, I got to be with Leach, right?
That's a good defenseman.
Yeah, so I just got to be, usually as a D-man, your first pass should always be, for transition up to your forward, right?
Yes.
And when I was playing with Brian, especially Brian, I made sure my first pass was to him.
Oh yeah, he had speed.
He wanted the puck, and he made it. And I said to him, I said, "Listen, if you want the puck first, you got it every time." And that's what I did. And so whenever I got the puck, I looked for him first all the time, and he wanted it. I became the Boom for him, right after Boom left.
I remember.
It's just that Glenn and I just couldn't see eye to eye. Sather didn't like me, so yeah, that's why I didn't sign back. I burned my bridge there too, though, mind you. So just with some off-ice stuff. But,
Did you enjoy playing for Mike Milbury? How was he as a coach?
Yeah, you know what? I liked Mike, and a lot of people that didn't like Mike. I thought Mike was a good coach. Honestly, he was a decent. He was a good coach. Mike just got to me. This is just my opinion. He couldn't stand when guys wouldn't work. But when the best players wouldn't show up, they're getting paid dollars to show up.
Yeah.
It was hard for Mike to understand how these guys would just not work hard, right?
Yeah, that's the frustration.
But Mike and I had a very good relationship, like where I would never challenge him in front of the team, but we did have conversation behind closed doors about things that I thought where he would cross lines, right, with players.
Mm-hmm.
Zdeno Chara being one of them. I remember when he, in a room when he just kind of went after Z, and that was the end of it for Z, right? On the island. And I remember going to Mike and being like, geez, Mike, like the kid, like he's a kid. Yeah. Like, who cares if he wants to pick up the guy after he lays him out? Who cares? He still laid him out, right?
Yeah.
Because in the meeting, Mike had kind of talked to, targeted Z about, you're this big 6'9" guy, but every time you hit somebody, it's like you want to pick them up and see if they're okay. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that conversation should have happened behind closed doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I thought Mike was a neat guy. Honestly, I remember he probably had the classic bag drill after a loss.
How bad?
This is going to go up I told somebody this story. They go, "Oh my God, I'm going to use it." I said, when I was coaching, I was going to use it one day, and. So what happened was we had a Sunday. I was coming back to play. So I never played that. We were playing the St. Louis Blues at home on a Sunday afternoon at 2:00 game. Okay. Well, then we had 5 days off. So I was one of the captains, like an assistant captain for the team, but I wasn't playing. So then I had arranged basically we were all going out after the game. We had limos picking us up. And all the wives and the couple, we were all going out to the city for dinner, and then we were going to have some fun, right?
Yeah.
And we played the St. Louis Blues. I think we were up like 3-2 going into the third. We lose 5-3 or 6-3. We lose.
Ooh.
We crap the bed in the third. you know what? We played 2 good periods, right?
Yeah.
Let's take the positives, right?
Yeah.
And so we're in the let's go have some fun. We'll lick our wounds up. The guys can lick their wounds, blah, blah, blah. Well, I get in after the game. So the game finished at whatever time, 5 o'clock, 5:30, right?
Yes.
We had reservations for like 7 in the city, I think it was. So me, this guy Danny Plant, we're the 2 extra guys, and there's some. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the guys come off. Milbury comes in, and he goes and just loses it on everybody.
Wow.
Right? He goes, you know what? You guys want to just throw that game away? Keep your stuff on. We're going back on the ice.
Oh man! Right after the game.
Right after the game.
Are you serious?
I looked at him and I was like, what the F? I had that look. And he looks at me and he goes, you got a problem? I'm like, well, no. He goes, are you part of this team? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, get your shit on. You and Planner, get your shit on. So now I got to go tell the wives, cancel everything. We got to wait for the building to clear to go back on the ice. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, I was crazy.
I've never heard of this before. This is the first time I hear something.
We end up getting, like, I get dressed, but the guys leave. Everybody's pissed off. Everybody's pissed. Like, we guys are mad. Like, it was like, because he caught wind, right? He caught wind of the limos and everything. I don't know how he found out, but he found out. So now we wait for the building to clear. That takes freaking an hour, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. We go on the ice, and we can see the reporters way at the old Coliseum, way up top there. They were up there. There was about five of them up there. They were hiding, supposedly hiding. Mike wanted it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we got our practice jerseys on. There's colors. I think we were in blue and whatever. We were blue and black, red or whatever we were. Half in blue. We were all in blue. Didn't matter. Anyways, he goes, everybody line up on each goal line, to like half and half, right?
Yeah.
Then we're just about to start, and he calls us all in. He goes, Dad, take your jerseys off. You guys don't deserve to wear the New York Islander logo on your chest. You guys got no heart, blah, blah, blah. So now we take all our jerseys, hand them to Joey McMahon, our equipment guy, right? So now we're just at our shoulder pad, okay? So we line up again at each end, but we're at the far end, and all of a sudden we see him at the other end, and Joey handed him this big book. And we're like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
We're all like, what the hell is he doing? He's reading out of a book. And then he would blow the whistle, and everybody from that end would come all the way down to the goal line, stop, back, 2 times back. And then one guy is standing there, not going. We're like, what? And then he'd do it, he did them like 3 times, like 3 sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So back and forth 3.
And each time there was a different guy standing. We're like, what's he doing? Guess what he had? It was a dictionary.
Oh, man.
And then he would read the definition. So, like, for instance, like, he'd read the definition of heart or soul or something like that. And then he'd pick Scott LeChance. You got no effort heart. You got no compete. Everybody down and back twice for Scott. So he just sat there watching us skate.
Oh,
and then he would pick a different guy. And he had a different word for everybody.
Oh, man. That's
Classic.
Unbelievable.
and then, so I winked at him like I was getting tired because I didn't play the game, but I was getting tired, right?
Wait, I'm just skating.
I'm like, I kind of gave him a look like I need a break, probably, right?
Yeah.
So he reads the definitions of weight, and he goes, Pilon, you're 5 pounds overweight. Everybody down and back for twice for Pilon. Everybody goes, and I'm like, thank you. He goes, oh, you're welcome. He goes, so funny. But I thought that was a classic, man. And it was something that we talked about that for days because it was funny because some of the stuff he read for certain guys. It was hilarious. Where he come up with this, I have no idea, but I thought it was awesome.
That's very creative.
He got his boy to try. Isn't that creative? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think he read the definition of an egg, like what an egg was. Like, an egg. And he goes, Mary Strakowski, I could put this dozen eggs in your back of your pants for a game, he goes. I'd get the whole dozen back by the end of the game.
Funny. Oh.
Oh, my God. Hilarious.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic Mike.
That's awesome.
Which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to me on my channel. It was awesome. Awesome to hear all the
Yeah, people want
stories.
some more. Yeah, looking forward.
Yeah, we'll do
thanks
another one
having
for
me,
sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jack. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay warm out there.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.